Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a little television set. Something that seems like I haven't done in a little while. I've been doing a lot of super mini mail call episodes lately. Here it is. It's a General Electric performance television. Small, black and white, I'd say about 12 inches or so. It's got a VHF, a UHF tuner, power button here, speaker up at the top. Does have three controls: volume, brightness, and contrast. It's funny that the volume control is down there, not somewhere over here where it would be normally on most TVs. The condition of this television is really nice. It kind of looks, honestly, in mint condition, at least on the outside of the set. I got it exactly like this. It was given to me. I have not cleaned it or done anything to it. It literally was exactly like this. The only thing that I did do, because this was sitting on my desk upstairs for a little while, is the speaker grill here, which is metal. In fact, this entire plate behind the dials here is metal, painted metal. Some of the black paint here had started chipping off. You can just see a little bit of something going on there. But I have to say, when I was sitting there looking at it while I was on a conference call or whatever, I took a black Sharpie marker and I started drawing in over the grill. There were little shiny silver spots where the paint had flecked away. Judging by the fact that there's a little bit of like white corrosion here, oops, it's just sort of falling down. Maybe something was splashed on this. I'm just trying to catch it from falling down onto the dial there. You see that? And like I mentioned, I just can't really believe that this thing was actually in use anywhere, especially as old as this is, probably late 70s maybe? That's what I'm guessing before we look at the back. It just looks in perfect condition. Like the plastic is shiny, it's not dirty in any way, it's just pretty amazing. You can see the profile of the TV. It's sort of got this sloped look, and it does have a carry handle here on the top. The funny thing about this carry handle is when you put your hand in there, I have to use my other hand as an example, but normally you would, like if this was the plastic and you stick your hand in to grab it, it would be flat, you know, so give your finger something to grab onto. On this TV, what's underneath there is kind of angled like that. So when you put your fingers on it to lift up the TV, it feels like your hand's gonna slip off because it's just slippery plastic in there. Oh, let's keep turning this around. So obviously we have the rod antenna, which is in really nice shape. It's got a little bit of dirt and corrosion on it, I guess, so it's not perfect. The power cord here had this twist tie on it, which looks, I mean, I don't know if that's original or this was just whoever was using this TV. Maybe they had this in a cabinet and it was enclosed in that cabinet its entire life. So that's why it's so clean, and they had done this to just sort of keep the cord nicely out of the way. Even the plug there is shiny and not oxidized. And the cord itself, it just looks brand new. It's not even dirty at all. All right, just taking a quick look at the back here. So with the rod antenna, if I slide that up, there is this terminal that goes from there to there. And then there's this wire that goes inside the set. So typically you would have separate connections for VHF and UHF. I'm not 100% sure actually what's going on here. I don't really know where this wire goes, but we'll pop the cover off so we can take a look at where this black wire is going. We have the original cord holder that is still intact and not broken, so this would be for wrapping your power cable around. There are some controls here. We have vertical hold, vertical size, and horizontal hold to control the oscillator. There is a message that says, to prevent electric shock, do not remove back. There are no user serviceable parts inside. That message really came from the fact that originally electronics would have vacuum tubes or vacuum bulbs inside that you did need to service as a owner of your set. So if your TV stopped working, you might pop the cover off and take your tubes out and take them down to your corner store where they would have a tube tester so you could test them to make sure they work, buy replacements, and reinstall them in your set to maybe avoid having a service call. But once they switched to solid state, which this TV will be all transistorized, they started putting this message on here to say there's no point to take off the back because there's nothing to service inside for an end user, that is. The GE label here is pretty boring, doesn't have anything about the date or year this thing was made, unfortunately. It is model number 12XB9102S. I don't even see a serial number on this unless that's what this thing is here, but I doubt that. The build quality of the whole case seems pretty cheap, and that was happening near the end when they really started to have to lower the cost of these sets to compete with all the inexpensive import TVs that were on the market. I'm just gonna flip this TV onto its side here so we can see on the bottom. Oh, and we have another label here. So there is the serial number, but more important, there's the chassis, XB-F. So if you are looking to service one of these TVs, you can look up the chassis number in the Sam's guide, for instance, to find the schematics for the TV. Before I attempt to power this thing up, let's crack the back cover off and see what's inside. For pulling the back cover off, I have a feeling the power cord is similar to that Sony TV I had from the 70s, where this is fixed to the back cover and it's held on to the power supply or the main board with two metal prongs. And like on the Sony, it was a bit stubborn to come off. So I think I gotta give this thing a good yank to get this out of here. And there we go, it came free. Wow, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this television, if it's been used, it was used very briefly because it looks completely brand new in here. Brand spanking new. Okay, on the side here, we have a note that fell off. Important, perform the following safety checks after servicing this receiver. Inspect the lead dress, wires should not be pinched or touching power resistors, and measure the resistance with the cabinet back on from the wide blade of the power plug to the exposed metal parts and screws on the cabinet must be less than 600K. And that would be because this would be a live set here. And the funny thing is, so I guess that kind of tells us that this is a little bit later of a set, is that this is a polarized US or North America plug. In the North American power system, the narrower blade, this one I have my finger on, is always the live or hot, and the wider one is always the neutral. And that prevents you from accidentally reversing the plug and sticking what would be the neutral into the hot connector on the plug. But when you have two prongs like this and you have a live chassis where you don't have a transformer that's isolating the entire set from the mains power input, you could potentially, if you reverse this, allow external metal parts on the set to be at mains potential. So like I said, this set, it's just absolutely minty fresh in here. The flyback transformer here is completely brand new looking. There's absolutely no soot or black dust on it at all. I mean, my fingers are coming back completely clean. The high voltage lead here is completely brand new looking. Oh, and this is interesting. I think some people may not have ever seen this, but the high voltage anode connection here doesn't even have a rubber cap on it. And this is not unusual. This is not unusual. A lot of older sets didn't have a cap. Even ones that were color from like the 60s, those things ran at like 25,000 volts. So yes, if this set were operating with the back cover off, this part of the metal right here is actually going to be at probably 12,000 volts or 10 to 12,000 volts. It's usually for black and white about 1,000 volts per inch. And this is a 12-inch CRT, so about 12,000 volts or so. Looking at the neck and the deflection yoke, again, there is not a tiny bit of dirt or dust or anything on. This thing is just perfect. The CRT glass envelope here is just completely perfect. There is a little, I don't know if this is a hair. I guess this is a hair. Could this be from someone who made this set? And believe me, I don't have long hair like this, so that's not mine. For anyone interested, the CRT is a 12VBJP4 and, oh, production code. That must be the date code right there, 7520. So as a 1975 set, there's of course a PCB in here. It's a single-sided affair, but this is pretty hilarious. So right here are the two prongs for the back cover to connect the power cable. Look at that fuse. They just soldered it on there. It's standing up. So I can't really get a good angle to show this sticker that's down here on this metal block. It's a can that's attached to this, which is the horizontal oscillator control. It says XB12 chassis assembled in Singapore, and then it says 0421. Okay, so here are the two tuners. This top one here is the VHF tuner, and the bottom one is UHF. When I was looking at the antenna block here, remember I was asking what this black wire here could possibly be for. That wire runs through here, and it's attached as a ground, simply as a ground to the this VHF tuner. From the external antenna connection though, there's this twin lead that goes down to a little PCB down there, and then there's coax that runs up to the various tuners and stuff. And I'm not exactly sure how this all works. I'm definitely very far from knowledgeable about the way these tuners work. I gotta say this wiring here is a little like, as Dave Jones would say, how you doing? It's just a little bit twisted up and stuff. Got a couple of large capacitors up here. It's probably something to do with the power supply. They just stuck them up here so they're out of the way. In fact, these sort of brown color wires here go to the front power switch, and they look a little like they're wax coated or something. Not the usual PVC coating like the rest of these wires. It's probably gonna be out of focus, but there is one Texas Instrument IC down there made in El Salvador, and it has a date code of 1980 14th week. So I think my assumption that this thing was made in 1975 was wrong, and that this set was actually made in 1980, which kind of is more in line with what I believe. Like I said, black and white sets had gotten really cheap by 1980 because color sets were really coming down in price, and they were trying to compete with foreign-made sets like Samsung and other brands like that. So, ooh, look at this cap just sort of hanging out here on the deflection yoke. Point-to-point wiring and all that. Well, before I do the maiden power up of the set, might as well do a little bit of cap testing. So we'll start with this one that's just tacked on. It is supposed to be 1,000 microfarad, and we're getting 1,100, and the D value of 0.26, the dissipation, I think that is generally going to be fine. This black cap here is 220 microfarad. Let's see if I can get on this properly. Oh, it's a bit all over the place. What's happening here? Oops, oh, there we go. No, I wasn't on the cap correctly. 228 microfarad, and the D is 0.1. So that's actually pretty good. And what was the D on this cap? Oh yeah, 0.15. Okay, that's fine as well. And then back here, there's a large blue capacitor, 330 microfarad, 180 volts. That's pretty chunky. Let's see what we get on this one. It is supposed to be 330, and the D is a nice 0.097. So that, I'd say that cap is okay. Now down here on the PCB, there are definitely electrolytics. Some of them are the purple type that I think are known to leak, according to people like Jordan Pierce. But on the deflection yoke here, for instance, there is a little cap, 0.47 microfarad. Yep, so we're getting 500 nanofarads, very low D. It's 100 volt. So that's looking good. I am just going to flip this set on this front and just quickly test all the rest of the caps that I can reach, at least without pulling this out. Okay, quick check is complete. Everything seems totally fine with the set, at least the caps I can reach. There's some that are way down there, and I didn't slide this board out because you got to take the knobs off the front. Everything seems fine, seems to check out without issue, including this purple cap, which I thought might not be good. So I'm going to just reinstall the back cover here so I can do some quick testing. Okay, so I just push this on, make sure that the power cable is connected properly. I'm just going to put a screw into this antenna thing here so it isn't flopping around. Hope that's not the right screw. And before I plug it in, I'm just going to turn down all the controls to minimum. Brightness, contrast, power is off. Just in case the deflection's not working, I don't want a dot or a line to potentially burn a hole in this basically brand new CRT here. And here we go, ready for power on. First time in 40 years. What's going to happen? Okay. Oh, look at that. We got a picture. Good deflection. We have audio, obviously. Now remember, brightness and contrast are all the way at minimum. So those controls seem to be working fine. And you know, I'm set to channel 3, so that's not gonna do anything. So let me get the signal generator out and let's give this thing a signal. So I have the VG91 connected up to the TV, and here I have it powered on. It's set for channel 3. Let's go to a higher channel. Let's try 7 here. What's cool about the VG91, I think I've showed this on the channel before, is it can generate any channel, UHF, VHF, also cable TV channels. I mean, analog, of course, right? It's not a digital encoder. It generates test patterns. It can also work as an RF modulator. It allows you to vary the power level so you can test the sensitivity of the tuner. You can generate the intermediate frequencies so you can hook up and bypass the tuner. If that's not working, it's very flexible and it's a pretty amazing piece of tech. All right, so I see some color bars there. Let's turn the volume up. We're getting sound, no problem. Let's try adjusting the fine tuning here. This fine tuning definitely works. Let's turn the brightness and stuff up a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. Oh, that pot's a little noisy. I should have adjusted that before I put the cover back on. Oh, it's bright. It's bright. And of course it's bright. It's not used. So the tuner is not very sensitive, I gotta say. I'm connected to the 2 screws on the back on the lower section. Oh, you know what? Let me just make sure that this is okay, the RF connection. Sometimes I need to buy the correct adapter here because it's all a bit loose. Okay, there we go, that's fine. It's got a little bit of interference here. See if we can tune that out. Oh, that's a bit better. It's a bit of interference. Of course, in this world we're in now, there's a lot of interference, and TVs like this, they just don't have good rejection compared to a modern set. And that's because inside there's that twin lead, which is unshielded, and that goes up to the tuner, and it's gonna pick up all sorts of things. So let me tune this up to channel 13. Let's get a little bit higher. Oh, it's definitely a lot sharper there. Still have interference though, but that could be coming from like this thing itself or my lights in the room, switching power supplies, stuff like that. But this is looking very sharp. Let's check out some of these other things. Okay, geometry. It's not too shabby. I mean, it's moved over to the side, but geometry-wise, it's pretty good. Focus is decently sharp. It's soft in the corners, but it's looking quite good. Let me switch to channel 2. Even more interference there if I turn up the power. Let's try channel 11. There it is. I'd say the tuner in this thing is a little dirty. Probably could use a clean because it's definitely a little twitchy adjusting this. But hey, that's looking good. I'm turning the power up a little bit to get rid of any interference. Yeah, I mean, you know, this TV, even when it was brand new, it wasn't gonna be super great. Yeah, the tuner is just a bit dirty. It was never gonna be super great. This was a low-cost television for use in like your bedroom or something. You used some rabbit ear antenna or hooked up an antenna on your roof to it, and you called it good. Yeah, maybe if I turn the channel back and forth, get a bit better. Tuner is definitely scratchy in there. I'm connected to the UHF now. We're on channel 25. And while everything works, the fine tuning, it's certainly not sensitive at all. Let's try 24. Yeah, it's not doing so great. Oh, hey, look at that though. 23 is super sharp. What could explain that? Why 23 looks like that, 24 looks like that? Don't quite get that. That is rock solid there. And the only issue I can see from a geometry problem is on the top, it curves over a little bit to the left. We got some controls on the back that actually do something. So let's see here. Oh yeah, we can actually get that centered. And we got a size control. And then we have horizontal hold control. So there we go. This is a pretty awesome little minty fresh GE television set. Performance television, indeed. It's not the best picture quality. The tuners are definitely a little bit dirty, but man, that CRT is bright and strong. So much so, and I know people are probably gonna be upset, but my TRS-80 Model 1, its CRT is not the best. And this CRT is probably compatible with the monitor that was made by RCA for the Model 1. So I may steal this CRT and stick it in that other one, maybe. I need to get that thing out and test it out, see how it looks, especially when hooked up to the signal generator here. But yeah, this TV is pretty cool. Now, I don't know the original owner. This was passed to me through an intermediate person, so I can't explain why someone would have bought this thing, held onto it for 40 years, and seemingly never used it. Or maybe if it got used, it was barely ever used. But for 40 years, if this were set up in a room but never used, it would be dusty, and it's not. So whoever had this thing, it was covered or stored away in a closet away from dust and the elements, because it certainly looks amazing. So if you like this video of me looking at this awesome little TV set, I would appreciate a thumbs up. But if you didn't know to do all that YouTube-y stuff, huge thanks to my patrons who have been supporting me. Their names are scrolling up the screen now. I really, really appreciate your support. If you want to become a patron yourself, you can do so. There is a link in the description below. Huge thanks to the person who donated this little TV to me, as well as the lovely viewer who donated this VG91 to me. I can't remember if I've shown this in a video yet, but this is a great signal generator, and it's great for testing these old TVs that, of course, don't have a composite input, are RF only. And if you have experiences using this particular TV or one very similar to it, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section below. So yeah, do comment. And second channel, so subscribe if you don't mind. And I guess that is gonna be it. So everyone, stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.